Welcome to this Evil Done Badly bonus episode. We're calling this episode Blood and Beverages. Oh god. This episode is going to be even worse than normal. As you may have noticed by now, I've already enjoyed a few beverages this evening and am eager and ready to talk some true crime. We're not going to get too in-depth here because my inebriated mind can't handle too much thinking at the moment. So we're going to take a quick look at the worldwide leader chart of the most prolific serial killers of all time. And speaking of prolific worldwide leaders, who's the worldwide Facebook leader of all paranormal investigations? That's Gerard, over at the Wide World of Paranormal Investigations group on Facebook. They've got over 12,000 members, and we can't thank them enough for their continued support. So get on over there and sign up. This episode is also brought to you by, Beverages. If you're dying of thirst, they will literally save your life. So avoid dying of thirst and enjoy a nice tall beverage as we cue the Blood and Beverages theme song, which doesn't exist, so we'll make it up right on the spot. Here we go. Nya 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 nya. Nya nya. Hell with it. Let's just play Summertime Motherfucker again.
Summertime, motherfucker, it's time to race around. It's summertime, motherfucker, cruising with the top down. Summertime, motherfucker, I'm rolling down the street. It's summertime, motherfucker, soaking up the heat. It's summertime, motherfucker, get outside, motherfucker. Summertime.
Isn't that a catchy fucking song? So you can find that on all major streaming services. That's the Dorks. DORKZ. And their hit song, Summertime Motherfucker. Check it out. So, who is the most prolific serial killer of all time? Well, that's hard to say, because they're all lying cunts. And a lot of times, the investigators, they get everything ass backwards as well, and no one really knows. But what we have are some official made-up estimates, and that's what we're going to go by. We're just going to go with the official tally of victims here. And another thing, we're not going to go with notoriety. Because if that was the case, Jack the Ripper would probably be on top because everybody on the whole fucking planet knows him. He only killed maybe 5 people. And no one knows him, but everyone knows him. Either way, that's a puny number. And we won't be talking about Jeffrey Dahmer here. Because he's one real infamous cunt, but he's just doesn't have the numbers to make the list, so we're snubbing him here. And we're also going to ignore anything from the distant past. That stuff is, unverified and, mainly made up to spook people. Anyways, you get the point. Hold on to your arse, and let's start with number 10 on the list. And that is William Unek from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. In 1954, this dude was a police officer. And as a good police officer, he spent an hour and a half murdering people with an axe. He then escaped and went on living his life in a different territory. Now, in this first murder spree, he killed 21 people. And somehow he got away and started a new life in a different territory. And 3 years later, he was working and had some sort of disagreement with his boss. So you can say he went a little postal. He then went on, stole a police rifle and 50 rounds of ammunition. He armed himself with the gun, his trusty axe, or quite possibly a new axe, and over the next 12 hours, he shot 10 men, 8 women, and 8 children. He ran out of ammo whipped out his axe, and killed 5 more men. Somehow, he managed to burn 2 more women and a child to death and strangled a 15-year-old girl. Of the 36 people he killed in this second spree, his wife was one of them. And that brings the total to 56 dead people. 56! And we're only at number 10. Cripes! That's madness. And he's not even caught yet. He went on the lam for 9 days. And eventually wound up at a stranger's house. Oh, my dog is being silly. 1 second. So as I was saying, he went on the lam for 9 days. And eventually wound up at this, very fortunate stranger's house begging for food. They notified the police that this might be the cunt they're looking for. And police told him to keep him there next time he shows up. Next time he shows up, you keep him there. Alright, fuck that! That's a great way to get yourself killed. Hey, murder guy, since you're here, hey, how about some frozen pizza? You like mushrooms? No! Ah! He killed me! Anyway, this guy is way braver than me and actually pulled it off. But the police burned down his house with a smoke bomb. Unek, the evil guy, was severely burned in the blaze and later died in hospital. The guy who had his house burned down received a reward of £125, which was probably a lot at the time, and the British Empire Medal. I hope the £125 was enough to rebuild his house and put up a swimming pool. This guy is a hero, and this Unek guy, he's a fucking cunt. Moving on. And coming in at number 9 is Samuel Little. He is the most prolific known serial killer from the United States. He's admitted to more than 93 different murders. Don't know why I said different there. I don't think it's possible to admit to the same murder multiple times. So, we just kind of assume that all 93 are different murders. You can't count the same guy a bunch of times just to pump up your numbers. Whatever, move on. Anyway, he was active between 1970 and 2005. He targeted hookers, drug addicts, and the homeless because he figured these people would leave fewer clues and less people would bother to look for them. And, well, he's right. He may have still been offending right up until 2012. He was only convicted of 8 murders, but he's been conclusively linked to around 60. It's a bit murky, but either way, he got 4 life sentences with no chance of parole. He died in 2020 of, normal old people stuff. Coming in at number 8, we're going over to China. Yang Xinhai was China's most prolific serial killer. His grand total comes in at 67. And he did this over only 4 years, between 1999 and 2003. Now that's quite recent, and quite the fucking clip of murders. He was not fooling around. This guy was fucking nuts. Now, he would break into houses and kill whoever was around, with axes, hammers, and shovels. And the sneaky bastard changed his clothes in between murders. Well, just because you're a murderer doesn't mean you shouldn't have good hygiene. And he wore oversized shoes to shag up the investigations. Well, he did eventually get caught. And how did he get caught? Well, he was acting suspiciously. Yep, that's it. They found him skulking around, and they brought him in for questioning, you little skulker. Then they found out he had warrants for murder in 4 separate provinces. And to top this off, it's a nice happy ending. He was executed by firing squad in 2004. Number 7, we're going to India. Okay, there's fuck all about this guy. Kampatamar Shankaria. He's an Indian serial killer who killed 70 people by smacking them under the ear with a hammer in 1977 and 78. He repented, though, in 1979, and the authorities thanked him for his honesty. And then they hanged him. And that was over. Moving on to number 6. We're going to Brazil. And Pedro Rodrigues Filho. This guy, he's a little different. He's convicted of 71 murders. Now, these murders were done all in a period while he was a teenager. And oddly enough, he targeted criminals. So, yeah, okay, that's definitely different. He's just not, killing vulnerable people. He claims to have killed over 100 drug dealers, murderers, and rapists. He served 34 years in prison, and then he got out. Then he went back for 8 years for inciting a riot. He got out for good in 2017 and started a YouTube channel and had over 250,000 subscribers at the time of his death just this year in 2023. His channel involved criminal commentary and talking about how crime is, in fact, not really all that cool. Wow! That's pretty fucking decent. Yeah, he had a play button. He became a minor celebrity when author Jeff Lindsay loosely based his Dexter series of novels on his life. He claims to have performed the murders as retribution for the murder of his pregnant girlfriend. Wow. Yeah, this guy is definitely the most likable dude on our list. Because these other fucking whack jobs, I hate them. I hate all of them. Okay, number 5. We're going to Colombia. And, bit of a spoiler here. Colombia's actually going to come up more than once after this guy. Daniel Barbosa from Colombia. This guy is believed to have raped and murdered at least 72 young girls in Colombia and Ecuador in the 70s and 80s. He's clearly not likable. Not like the last guy. Not like the guy with the YouTube channel. And the guy who kills bad guys. This Daniel Barbosa guy, he's a cunt. He would lure young girls into the woods by pretending to be a rich foreigner who was looking for a pastor at a church on the outskirts of town. And when they fell for it, he would rape and strangle them and leave their bodies in the forest. Yeah, he's not a very likable guy at all. He was arrested in Colombia, and then he was imprisoned. But then he escaped all the way to Ecuador, which is probably not that far away. But, whatever. And when he escaped, he went out in, a boat, or he swam and shit. He was out in the water, and he was believed to be dead. But he wasn't. He lived on the streets of Ecuador and raped and killed 54 more young girls. He would hack the girls' bodies to pieces and wanted virgins, quote, because they cried. That's fucking terrible. He had no remorse and just hated women because they wouldn't act how he thought they should. That's pretty fucking messed up, dude. But it has a happy ending. We're getting to that. A nephew of one of his victims set things right when he stabbed Barbosa to death in prison at the age of 64. Good for you, nephew, sir. Okay, moving on to a totally new country here. We're moving on to Russia and Mikhail Popkov. And this sick fuck, he's still alive. He raped and murdered 78 girls and women between 1992 and 2010. In, Siberia and Russian-type places like that. He would use his police uniform to offer women rides. and then drive them to remote locations, and you can tell, well, holy shit, these poor girls are fucked. He would force them to disrobe and then kill them with various tools. He would mutilate and have sex with the corpses. And because of the viciousness of the crimes, he gained the nickname the Werewolf. Okay, when he was caught, he blamed his wife for being a slut. And he took out his hatred of women mostly on local prostitutes. How was he caught? Well, they used survivor testimony. There was a couple. They used the vehicle tracks. And that really pointed right to it being a police vehicle. And then they DNA tested like over 3,000 police officers. And by the time they got that done, he was apprehended. He was on the loose for 20 years. And after being on the loose and performing all these atrocities, well, Russia currently has a moratorium on the death penalty, so they won't kill him. So this cunt is still sitting around in prison somewhere. I hope he's uncomfortable. Like, having his eyeballs plucked out with a rusty spoon uncomfortable, or poked with a pointed hot stick or something. Piece of shit. Number 3. We're going to Pakistan. Javed Iqbal. In 1999, this asshole wrote a letter to the Pakistani police and confessed to the sexual assault and murder of 100 young boys. He claimed to have strangled them, cut up their bodies, and dissolved them in vats of acid. Police found blood, chains, and photographs of many of the victims. Well, and, acid vats at his place. There was no doubt he was the one responsible for being this lunatic. Now, he turned himself into a newspaper on December 30th, 1999. That sounds stupid. Wait a minute. You can't turn yourself into a newspaper. Let me try this again. He turned himself into a newspaper. What? Never mind. He wandered into an office at the newspaper place, and he confessed to being the killer. He didn't turn himself into anything. He just confessed. Okay, he's confessed. He's caught. That's more like it. But here's the fun part. The judge declared that Iqbal should be strangled, cut up into 100 pieces, one for each of his victims, and dissolved in an acid vat, all while the parents of the murdered boys get to watch. Now that's fucking awesome. Fire it up. But alas, the Human Rights Commission disallowed it. Ah, shit. In the meantime, Iqbal was found murdered in his cell. Now, it was officially declared a suicide, and nobody came to pick up the body. But I think it's pretty safe. Someone offed him, and, well, fuck that guy. Okay, we're down to the top 2. And we haven't heard from Colombia in a while, but we're going to right now. Pedro Lopez is number 2. This Pedro guy is quite prolific and comes in at number 2 on our worldwide list. And the funny thing is, he's number 2 on the worldwide list, but he's still only the second most prolific one in Colombia. So you know where number 1 is coming from. Now, Pedro Lopez has murdered a minimum of 110 young women between 1969 and 1980. He's claimed to have murdered over 300. So, I mean, if that's true, he's technically number 1. But, whatever. We're going with 110. What he would do, he would lure the young girls away with trinkets and sexually assault and strangle them with his bare hands. He claimed that he lost his innocence at 8 years old. and was determined to do so to as many young girls as he could. In 1980, he was sentenced to 16 years in prison. 16 years! That's the most they could sentence him for. And that's pretty crazy because, well, you kill 110 people, you should get more than fucking 16 years in prison. He was released 2 years early for good behavior and is quite possibly still alive and at large out there somewhere. How fucked up is that? The second most prolific serial killer in history is still out there going around somewhere. Holy shit, that's bonkers. Moving on to number 1. And we're back in Colombia. Luis Garavito. This dude is fucking crazy. This dude is confirmed to have raped and murdered at least 193 minors between Ecuador and Colombia in the 1990s. This cunt would rape, torture, mutilate, and murder minors after luring them with offers of money or jobs. He often disguised himself to seem more trustworthy. He would drag them to a body dump site, wait until they got tired, and then just bind and assault them. Garavito said he felt compelled by the devil and would incorporate satanic rituals into the murders. The details of these crimes are way too graphic to go into on a podcast as stupid as this one. So I'm going to leave that there. But just let me say, this guy couldn't get off unless he was in the act of murdering during intercourse. So it gets incredibly disturbing. How was this fucker caught? Well, after a bunch of mass graves were found, and they started closing in on him, Garavito got drunk and naked in the middle of a murder. That's, pretty commonplace for him. But in this case, he passed out on top of a victim, dropped the cigarette he was smoking, and caught the field on fire. So he had no choice but to run away naked. And then the police found a bunch of his stuff at the site. And it included the name of a random woman. They looked into this woman, and it turned out to be Garavito's girlfriend. Unfortunately, she says she hasn't seen this fucker in months. But she does give them a suitcase that, he had lying around there. This case had pictures of young boys, details of murders, and some bills. I assume, power bills, maybe a few $1 bills, I don't know. That's not important. Anyway, they had their guy. Now they just had to find him. In the meantime, they had another sex offender in custody, just in case he was the dude, but they let him go when more murders kept happening while he was incarcerated. So it's kind of hard to argue with that. Garavito was pretending to be a politician when he attempted to rape another boy. Another 16-year-old boy was in the vicinity and started shouting and throwing rocks at Garavito. And then Garavito loses his shit and just runs after this other teenager with a knife. So in the meantime, the other boy gets away as well. So these two boys meet up and they hide at a young girl's house. Garavito comes to the house and the girl gives him, pretty fucking dumb directions and sends him off into the woods in search of the boys. And that is fucking awesome. Good for her. She sent this idiot off into the woods. Now he goes out there. He can't find anybody. He's like, how could this young girl have lied to me? And he walks out bewildered. His clothes is a mess. And he stumbles out through the clearing. And the cops are waiting for him. So what does he say? He's just a politician who likes dressing up and hanging around in the woods. These police, they don't buy it. They take him in anyway. Good for them. So they compare this guy's DNA to the DNA from the clothes that was left in the burning field. And they compare his eyes to the glasses that they found in the burning field because he has a rare form of astigmatism, and it matched up to the prescription that these glasses had at the scene had. So he's fucked. So he confesses, and he gets sentenced to 1,853 years in prison. That's fucking awesome. But according to Colombian law, the max is now 40 years. And because he's cooperative, his sentence is reduced to 22 years. He's in jail, and he's up for parole in 2023. That's this year. By the time you listen to this, he could be out roaming around again. He plans to get out, join the ministry, and, well, when he joins the ministry, he hopes to help children of abuse. Oh my God, that's fucking nuts. Fortunately, he has severe eye cancer and will probably not be around much longer. But however long he's around, it's far too long for him to be roaming the earth. Fuck him too. Fuck him. Again. So as you can tell, all these cunts deserve to die slowly. And it still won't bring any of their victims back. These guys are the worst of the worst. But I do have a couple of honorable mentions that I can't leave out. And first up we have Harold Shipman. Not shit, man. Ship-man. He was a British doctor who was convicted of murdering 15 of his patients by administering or prescribing lethal amounts of drugs. He was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole or discharge. Turns out the Brits don't have the death sentence. They should really look into that. And you might say, hey, 15 victims is not going to put him anywhere near this list. Number 10 was like 50 something. Yeah, you're correct. Nope. But given the circumstances and the disproportionate number of deaths that happened while under Shipman's care, the generally accepted tally for Harold is around 250 deaths, which, if true, would quite possibly make him the most prolific serial killer of all time. He's also the least violent of the bunch. He got caught when he tried to add himself to one of his victims' wills and claimed she was hooked on smack. He just claimed that some old, woman who used to, knit and watch Jeopardy and stuff. He claimed she was a hardcore heroin addict. And, well, she ended up with too much heroin and she died. Funny thing is, there's no record of that until Shipman added the smack addiction to all her files going backwards. So he just added them in after to make it look like, well, she's on smack. She needs it really bad and she's going to die. Now, so she should give me, Harold Shipman, all her money. Fortunately, he is dead now. He hung himself in his jail cell in January 2004. And the families of the victims were not happy about that because, well, that was way too good for this piece of shit. Honorable mention number 2. Henry Lee Lucas. He killed his mother, and he confessed to 2 more women killings in 1982. Okay, that's a grand total of 3. Why is he notable? Well, he killed 3 people, he helped police find the remains, and it sure seems like he did it. He is a cunt, and he's killed 3 people. So, he's in custody. And, well, he's still a cunt. But he finds it convenient to go on and confess to around 600 more murders. So this guy, if he had done half of that, he would still be the most prolific serial killer of all time. But he's completely full of shit. The notoriety he got from being Mr. Murder Man turned him on, and he just kept on confessing to whatever murders came up, and the police encouraged it. For a little while, he was taken at face value, and open cases were closed based on his horseshit testimony. Now, that's a fucking problem. These cases that he's admitted to, they're not solved. He's just a fuckturd who's making shit up. Meanwhile, he's loving every minute of it. He would get perks, like steaks and milkshakes, for confessing to murders that he had nothing to do with it, so that the police could pat themselves on the back and look good. It didn't take long, though, for his story to start breaking down when it began to get obvious that he couldn't physically have been able to commit all these crimes that he said he did without some sort of time machine. He couldn't be in 2 places at once committing all these stupid murders. It's incredible. What the fuck? Why? Your story's gonna fall apart. You're an idiot. And you're a fucking ugly piece of shit. He's sentenced to die. Yay! But, of course, it all falls apart. For some reason, George W. Bush, who was governor of Texas at the time, commuted it to life in prison. Now, he is dead, though. He killed over dead in prison at the age of 64. And that's the end of the lying sack of crap known as Henry Lee Lucas. Okay, that's our honorable mentions, and now it's time for an update. Taylor Shabusiness. You may remember her. We covered her earlier on. And she is the crazy Wisconsin bitch who allegedly strangled and dismembered her friend Shay Therian during a drug-fueled lovemaking session in February of 2022. She has been found guilty of these crimes, and she's had her insanity plea rejected. Fucking A. It took jurors less than an hour to find her guilty of murder, mutilating a corpse, and sexual assault. She has a mandatory life sentence to look forward to, and we'll find out exactly what fate awaits her on September 26th of 2023. I mean, she's only 25 now, and most definitely will probably be let go at some point. But I imagine she will be spending a good few years behind bars. At least she didn't manage to make the insanity plea stick. That would suck. So it's awesome that she's gonna face the whole wrath of the court. And she's going away for a while, but that will not bring back poor Shad Therian. He just wanted to have a good, consensual time, and he got messed up with the wrong psycho nut job, and he lost his life for it. And that is fucking tragic. And there you have it! A bonus episode of Blood and Beverages comes to an end. Thank you for tuning into Evil Done Badly, the worst podcast ever this week. There won't be an episode next week. I know I said that before, but there really won't be an episode next week. Dick will be on vacation, and if you would like to reach out and suggest a future episode topic, we can be reached by email at evildonebadly@gmail.com or on Instagram or Twitter at evildonebadly. Thank you all again, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.